Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Monday night. It is Game 7 for the Rangers and Devils. We're going to get rocking on here for a little bit. A lot of portal news going down. A huge weekend for Ohio State. Great weekend for Ohio State. Added a really nice tackle prospect. Lorenzo Salas Jr. also jumped in the boat. Some big news. And we had another Buckeye transfer out. Caleb Brown took off. We're going to talk about that. And we are bringing in another safety in the portal. A kid we're going to talk about a little bit. It's from UAB, fourth-year guy, has some big visits lined up. So it's crazy when we've brought in as many guys as we had into the back end, into the secondary. But hey, man, we're running this thing like an NFL show now where we're trying to turn the bottom of that roster and get some new guys in here. So see how it goes. I mean, we're going to host them, I think, midweek next week. And who knows? We might have another safety on our hands. But as always, we're very grateful for you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. As always, you guys drive the show. Shout out where you're from in the comments. Again, I love when you guys do that. We got Japan, we got Canton, I mean, it's all over the place. It's amazing. Again, we had Columbia. Nevada said that I was more like the Cali cartel. I think he's more like Cali because he's a business guy. I'm more like Pablo, or was it Plumo or Plata, lead or silver. So, but I appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoy this, please leave a like, click subscribe. And if you enjoy these live shows, make sure you click the little alert button so you guys don't miss anything. We love seeing our regulars in here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in every night. Again, you guys make the show fantastic. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We try to bring you guys the best premium coverage on the internet, and we know we're doing a great job because our subscriptions are growing like crazy. So thank you guys. That being said, I'm going to bring in Cali Cartel mob boss, Mr. Nevadabuck. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, man. It's like, yeah, all my homies out there in Columbia. Let's go. No, Ohio State's doing some Cali cartel level type of stuff here with this potential UAB safety transfer. Because just when I generally stuff happens at Ohio State, and well, I don't know all of it. Pretty much all of it makes sense to me, or I can kind of put the pieces together and kind of backtrack or do a little regression analysis and kind of understand what's happening. This one's a little weird. This one's definitely a little weird. So I'm not sure how serious Ohio State is about this. We can dive more into the reasons why they might be or why they might not be, but it was definitely an odd development here in the last 24 hours after great. We've added 7 kids in the portal. Lost a few, which sometimes is for the best, but now we got a kid coming in from UAB for a visit, so now I'm just throwing my hands up there because I obviously don't know what the heck's going on.
It's crazy. I mean, again, after we took Jihad Carter, we took Davis Bedosin. Josh Proctor comes back for year 6, so you almost count him as like a transfer, even though he didn't come from anywhere. But nobody expected him back for year 6, and he comes back. So it's a crowded room, man. What do you make of this? What do you make of the fact that they're hosting another kid? Again, like, this is why recruiting is great, but the portal is kind of the great equalizer now because some of these kids get underlooked. They might not go to the most prestigious high schools. They might be late bloomers. They might just have the light bulb come on a little bit later. But this is a kid who literally, he plays at UAB, which didn't even have football 4 or 5 years ago. They literally shut the program down, had to restart the program. And now he's visiting Ohio State, Florida State, Oregon, kind of the schools that like he probably dreamed of going about. Because I imagine when UAB opened back up for business that, they weren't exactly pulling 5 stars and 4 stars. They're pulling like whoever they could get to come because, again, that's a tough sell when you're starting a whole new program from scratch because you're probably going to be bad for a couple of years because you're not going to have any upperclassmen. You had a tradition, but they shut it off. And, there's some trepidation there if you're a senior in high school and you're like, well, if I come here and commit here, are you guys going to turn the program off again and try to save a buck? So, but yeah, now this kid, he's in the portal and he gets to go to kind of some of the dream schools. And but what do you make of it with the safety room? I'm as perplexed as you, just because I look at Sonny Styles, I look at Kai Stokes, I look at some of these young guys. Jihad Carter got hurt, didn't get to see him much. You still have Cam Martinez, you have Josh Proctor, you have Lathan Ransom. I mean, you have like 1,000 safeties in the back end, and you're bringing in another one. Like, what do you make of this?
Well, I think a lot of it is just position coach stuff, kind of covering, doing the old CYA because you know, uh, I think for Ohio State, the worst thing that can happen is a kid goes in the portal. You don't really even, sniff. he goes out there and he balls out somewhere else, and you potentially look dumb because you weren't like really on this kid. So I think they're going to bring him in, but like I said, I'm not sure how legitimate their interest is. Now, maybe it's totally legitimate, but it would seem odd given the reviews that we've heard about the safety room coming, all the way through the spring, given through the additions that they've made already, in the portal with guys, and just the number of guys that they have, and given the fact that this isn't a freshman, this is a fourth-year kid, so it's like you've got a guy who doesn't have an infinite amount of eligibility left over after this year as well. So I don't know. It's definitely a head scratcher and definitely one that deserves a little bit more digging to find out exactly what's going on because it's weird.
Yeah, and we've got freshmen coming in, and you gotta it's hard in preseason camp because spring ball's over. So now you're setting the depth chart for preseason camp, and you got to find reps for these kids, man. You don't get 8 hours a day of practice. You get about 2.5 hours of practice a day, and they don't have 2 days anymore. So you got to figure out where to work this kid in at. Again, if I'm this kid, there has to be a better looking safety depth chart than Ohio State, just because even if we lost Ronnie Hickman and Tanner McAllister, you've got a 6-year guy in Josh Proctor. You've got Lathan Ransom, who's going to be a preseason All-American. You've got Sonny Styles, who is the genetic freak of nature, 5-star superstar. You have Jihad Carter, who came over from Syracuse. I mean, you've got Kai Stokes, who I think is going to be a superstar once he starts getting some more burn, more playing time. So it's kind of just all over the place. But again, they're trying to build depth and build whatever. I mean, he's a redshirt junior, so I imagine he'd have 2 years to play left. So again, college football is changed forever. I kind of love it because, there's no more, hey, I've arrived, I'm at Ohio State. And, the guys that are in my recruiting class who weren't good enough to get an offer, or, they fooled, they weren't whatever. Those guys could show up now. I mean, there were guys that that I was at, camps with and stuff. And I was like, man, that kid could have played at Ohio State, both good and bad. I mean, there's guys that I played with that were from the state of Ohio that had really nice NFL careers that could have played at Ohio State with me. That could have been in my recruiting class, and they went to lesser schools. And I wish that, we would have taken a couple of those guys because they're really good players. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Again, I think that if he's visiting, there's at least a chance. Same with Tylen Malone, who sounds like it's a bidding war between us and the Miami Hurricanes right now. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating. Nevada, do you see much more attrition on the roster? Caleb Brown obviously took off. He's a kid from Chicago, went to St. Rita. If he was here 1 year, and I think, the Brandon Innes Hurricane is coming in, next week. He's going to show up, and he's going to be officially part of the program, and Carnell Tate and the Rogers brothers. Do you see much more attrition? And how much attrition is there a level for you that is a good level of attrition versus is there a breaking point where, if you get to the Deion Sanders level where they have 60 guys leave the program, where it's a bad level of attrition?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question. And for me, I've always been concerned about just kind of how this affects kind of the culture and the feel, of the room. And, as as the parent of, kids that are going to college, you want to play sports in college, I can't imagine anything that would be much more, depressing than have your kid go and wait 2 or 3 years and be waiting there. And all of a sudden they bring in a 5th-year senior and stomp them over your kid, and your kid goes to the end of the bench. And, you know what I'm saying? I have a lot of mixed emotions about this in terms of how this, potentially affects the room. So I just go back to my initial thoughts on this, if you're going to bring kids in, I don't think they can just be placeholder kids. I think they've got to be kids that are impact kids that are there to play. That's, because I think everybody, on the team could respect that. I think if you're just making moves just to make moves, I think it's potentially could backfire. And, for Ohio State, I think they've got to walk a, really fine line on this thing because, I think in the portal era now, you're probably going to have 10 to 12 kids coming in every year, and you're probably going to have 10 to 12 kids going out every year. And that's probably just the way it's going to be. And for a team like Ohio State, that's, a premium school, a team that's going to be competing for the national championship every year, that's developing kids in the NFL. We're just going to get stronger. It's just, it's just going to make the team better. But culturally, I do wonder where's the line and where's the backlash in that? And it is something I'm probably more concerned about than most people, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, because I think it's kind of, whether it's the Madden effect or whatever, but I just think it's not a video game, man. We're dealing with people's lives, and when you move people in and out about that, I always wonder about the law of unintended consequences and hope it doesn't come back to bite us.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is not Madden. These kids are here. Most of the kids that are top tier guys, their goal is to get to the NFL. There's obviously substantial money involved getting to the NFL. If you can get to the NFL, life changing money. So, when you see some of these guys taking off to look for a better opportunity where they can go somewhere and be the man, it doesn't surprise me. And again, you're right. We are dealing with kids and parents and high school coaches, and what are the aftershock effects of bringing in a kid? Because if you're bringing in a kid who's a can't miss superstar, like if I'm, starting offensive lineman for Ohio State and we bring in, Randy Moss at wide receiver or something like that, then you're like, oh yeah, this is great. This makes the whole team better. But if you're bringing in a guy who's just a guy and then he maybe gets an NIL deal or something, then that can really warp the culture, and unfortunately there's just not a lot of guys that are like that. Justin Fields, like super, impact type player. And Justin wasn't part of the portal because he had to get a waiver to come. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see how you manage this. Again, I think Davidson Igbinosun has been a guy who's done fantastic work so far. From the people I've talked to in the Woody Hayes, they love the kid. They think he's really, really a hard worker, kept his mouth shut. Again, that's something you bring. You worry about. I mean, now, these kids are showing up. Some are getting NIL money, and some aren't getting NIL money. So if you show up to a locker room and you've got, brand new apartment, brand new car, all the trimmings, and then there's some guy who's been there for a couple years and he's kind of on the same level as you, but he's not getting the trappings because he didn't come, he stayed loyal and didn't go anywhere. Like, how does that work? I don't know. I mean, that's something that these freshmen are finding out. Like, not all these freshmen are created equal anymore, because some of these freshmen are getting paid, man. Some of these guys are showing up, they're getting big checks, they're living in apartments now, they've got nice cars. And there's some freshmen that are in the dorms and they don't have cars and they're riding the bus. So again, it's just one of those things where you really have a lot of sensitivity you have to deal with. There's a lot of kids that they're concerned with each other's pockets, and I worry about that. Like, I think that it's something that'll be interesting for the locker room. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how, if this kid fits in. I don't think we end up getting him because I don't know how you fit him with the number of safeties you already have. But it'll be interesting to see if this visit even happens. But as we keep progressing. We'll talk a little bit about the offensive line because we have to do that every single day. It seems like. What do you think Josh Simmons' impact is going to be? We've had a couple of days to digest it. We watched his film. Again, I don't know how many of his offers were real. If his offers were real, which I don't think they were, Georgia, USC, and Oklahoma offered this kid out of high school. And again, those can't be real to me if you end up at San Diego State when Oklahoma offers you and USC offers you. But we watched his film. He's got nice feet. Looks like a decent player. What do you think he adds to the room, Nevada? He's got more starts than all of our tackles combined, but it was at a lesser level of competition. But what do you think adding him does to our offense?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. It's experience. I mean, the one knock on the guys that we have, and this is one thing that an important point to remember. Let's say that we had recruited 10 5-star tackles in the past 3 years. Let's take 10 or whatever. Lined them up. We have them lined up in a row. How many starts would those guys have between them sitting on this day right now? The answer is zero. They'd have zero starts. So, we'd be in the same boat with lack of experience, which is what we faced with Zen, what we faced with George, what we faced with Tegra. But I think, with Simmons, you got starts, and sometimes the starts haven't all been great. He hasn't graded out particularly highly in all these starts, but he really wasn't coached up. And so what you're getting is a guy that's big. He's got all the physical tools, and he started 12 major college football games, and that type of level of experience just it can't be replicated. There's nothing else like starts because ultimately it comes down to playing, and I think it's going to be a great depth piece for Ohio State. And if they coach him up, he could be a raw piece of clay that turns out to be a really terrific player. And I think Justin Fry sees that in him and believes in him, and has believed in him a long time since he was in high school. So I think it's a perfect fit, and the wheel came full circle on this one, and ended up at Ohio State with Fry. So all the better for the Buckeyes.
What is your prediction for the starting offensive line week 1 when we play Indiana?
Oh man, that is a great that is a I mean, that is a great
There's
question.
a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks.
Yeah. Oh man. Here's what I'll say. I think it'll be not anything like we've seen up until now. I just have a feeling it's going to be completely, because we could just go position by position and say, well, Donnie Jackson could slide out to left tackle, and Josh Fryer could slide out to right tackle, and Jacob James could take over for Carson Hinsman, and what about Enoch, Vahami, and Matt Jones could. He's probably going to stay where he is, but what about Tegra and George and Zen, and I mean, I think that Fry's got a lot of options. I think he's going to shuffle a deck and try to keep, dealing the cards and find out what the right 5 combinations are. But my prediction, I'm just going to go with it's going to be not like we're seeing it now. I think it's going to be completely different than what we're seeing now with completely different combinations.
Yeah, I think again, this is going to be a battle at right tackle, battle at center, potential battle at left tackle. So it'll be interesting to see if they give Josh Fryer any competition. Just because again, I don't think he looked comfortable at left tackle. Again, I've made that switch and it takes a little bit of time, so he's got all summer to work on his footwork. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with these guys. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Like again, I think that adding another guy to the mix does nothing but increase the competition, which I think is great for us. So we're gonna break down a linebacker tonight. I know everyone loves linebackers. Kingston, this is one of the coolest names I think we've ever had. Kingston VLMO Asa is a kid who a lot of people are projecting him to Notre Dame. James Laurinaitis is killing it with this kid, recruiting him. Feel like the mom likes Notre Dame. But this kid's a beast. This is a kid that he'd be a great running mate with Peyton Pierce, who's already in the boat with us. So we're going to dig into his film a little bit. But another Bosco guy, Nevada. Is there any downside to taking too many guys from Bosco?
No, definitely not. I mean, Bosco's a factory. Just tough. It's tough getting them out of there. But once you get them out of there, boy, they're players. College football is just littered with Bosco kids all over the place. But he's a good looking player.
Yeah, we're gonna watch a little bit of this tape, and yeah, he's game record, man. I'm telling you, these guys do not play out there, man. This is no joke. Big time football. I mean, we couldn't get our boy. We couldn't get our boy Mateo from here, but we can keep shooting a shot. I mean, shooters got to shoot, but yeah, he's a big bruising dude. He's light. Again, you see him pick that off, and I mean, he's got the jets, man. Like his tape is fun to watch. I watched it before in pre-show, and like I said, this is the kind of guy that you need to get. You need to get big time linebackers in this defense. Any defense is kind of controlled by the linebackers, in my opinion. We didn't get any last year, but we're off to a nice start this year with Peyton Pierce. So I think that it's a good deal. Yeah, this is perfect. Sell them on not playing for Alex Grinch. I love that. That's perfect. I mean, I would do that. I mean, you want to talk about like negative recruiting? Like, you could go play for James Laurinaitis or you could play for Alex Grinch. Like one of those things is not like the other. Daniel Henry went Fryer, Jackson, Hinsman, Jones, Simmons. I think that if you put a gun to my head and asked me what the starting lineup was, I'd say that. But Jacob James is a guy who's going to fight. But I'm just telling you, like, I really love. I think that the Simmons thing is a good deal. But again, if I'm Zen and these Integra, man, I am fighting tooth and nail to keep my spot. And it's going to be tough, but. Hey man, that's what football's about. That's what Ohio State's about. Like when you think you've got a shot to start, or you're one or two, like they're always bringing in a guy to replace you. That's something I learned at Ohio State, and that's not a negative. That's just how college football is. They're always going to try to get a 5-star guy behind you. So you better buckle your shin strap and not let him take your spot. So I love it. But yeah, this kid's film is it's good, man. This guy comes off the rock and. He'd be an incredible get for us. Like again, I don't know why you'd go to Notre Dame. I mean, I guess Marcus and the religious aspect, but I just think, if you want to really be a big time player, Ohio State's your spot right now. And again, I think after Tommy and a couple of these guys move on, like there's going to be some wide open spots. I mean, CJ Hicks is going to be into year 3 after this year. I'm just projecting out with Tommy and Steele, obviously. Cody Simons in year 4, so there's going to be some room at the end for these guys to get on the field early if they want to. What's up, Ed? Got Ed. You guys keep shouting out where you're from. I love to see these comments where you guys are at. I mean, again, you wouldn't believe some of the places people are watching this in. It's pretty cool to see. But yeah, Nevada, like, I mean, is there anybody, of course, with the hair, it's like you want to say like a Luga just because of the Polynesian thing, but I think this guy runs a little better than Luga, but Luga was a monster at USC. But anyone that he reminds you of as we watch a few of these clips?
I mean, yeah, every Polynesian linebacker that's ever played.
In history, yeah.
Yeah,
he's the Pert Plus.
Yeah, he's terrific, and apparently he's got a girlfriend in Lene Kukua that goes to Notre Dame as well.
Oh my God!
So it's like well, that could drive him over there, something like that. But I don't know. I don't know that'll be a factor. I hear she's sick, so hopefully.
Did you watch that on Netflix? The thing on Manti Te'o?
Oh yeah,
that was the most unbelievable thing. That like his cousin or whatever acted like Lene Kukua or whatever. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, it's funny. That's what everybody thinks of when they think of Manti Te'o. I mean, he was like second in the Heisman race. But yeah, that was wild. But no, he's a good player, man. Again, like I think if James can get this kid and Peyton Pierce, like that's a great start. You only have a 2 linebacker defense, so it's going to be a little slimmer than normal, but I like what this kid does on film, and he's disruptive. Are they handing him the ball here? What are they doing here with him? Is he lead blocking? There's Mateo kind of gentleman's blocking a little bit. You see our boy Mateo is out at Oregon now. Would have been nice to get him. We got Alaska, Ghana. You're not from Ghana. Coshocton, that's a little bit more like it. We got gift to say he's from Ghana. I love that. But yeah, this is kind of the time of the year. These coaches are going to hit the road recruiting hard. For those of you that haven't been in the life, this is a tough month for coaches, man, because they're generally on the road 4 or 5 days a week, hitting it. They're going to Florida, Georgia, Texas, California, the usual stops. But it's a long month for college football coaches because they're on the road usually 4 or 5 days a week. And I don't know if Ryan's like that, but with Urban, man, these guys were flying out Sunday night and they're getting home Friday night late. So they're hitting, Monday at 7 a.m. They're in the first school. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're in the airports, rental cars. Like it is not a luxurious life this month of recruiting. So it's wild. Tallahassee, Tally-ho, I love it. Scotland, come on, really? We got some Scotland in here. Long Island, okay, I'll take that. All right, we got a question, Nevada. How much, and this is a good question. This is a legitimate question. And again, I don't think that this is I don't think this is a negative. It kind of might be. How much will the fact that no defensive lineman has gone high in the draft the past few years, coupled with all the defensive linemen who have not been drafted, hurt Larry Johnston on the recruiting trail moving forward? I'll let you go first, Nevada.
Well, I mean, when you can point to Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, it's not like those guys played back in like 1950 with the leather helmets or something like that. Those guys are still, the preeminent defensive ends in the National Football League right now. So I think that he's still got it at least for a few more years. I don't think it'll hurt him too much. And I do think JT and Jack Sawyer are going to be household names by the end of this year. So I think he'll get back some of his mojo. But I think it points to a broader question of how good a job has Larry been doing the last few years. And in my opinion, it hasn't been great. And that's not like I'm not on team let's fire Larry or he's lost his fastball or whatever. But I think we have to be honest, intellectually honest about these conversations and say, when your leading sacker has 4.5 sacks, and that's not great. There's no way to sugarcoat it. So I think for Larry, look, the entire defense needs to be better, and that goes to every position group on the defense. I think they all need to be better. and then it rolls right up to Knowles, and Knowles has got to be better, and the defense has got to be better. The good news is I fully expect them to be better, but I think it's okay to have these conversations about where we've kind of come up short and where we need to improve, because I do think we've got the guys in place to do it, both on the field and off the field. So I'm expecting big things out of the defense this year.
Yeah, and like, if people are questioning him, I'd point to Davon Hamilton, just got a $40 million extension. You've got Draymond, just got $60 million from the Seahawks. So, and like you said, those guys didn't play in 1950. Those guys were 2018, 2019. I mean, those guys are really recent draft picks, and they just signed huge second contracts. So, they were developed, and they were mid-round picks, and they probably should have been first-round picks given how their extensions went. But I think that it's in college football, man. Like, it's never been harder to recruit. It's never been more exhausting to recruit, just because you can have a kid in the bag, and then someone literally drops off a bag, a bag of money, and then all of a sudden you don't have no more. So it's tough sledding. It's not like the olden days, and and I know that's the fun on back in the day, but now it's legal. You can institutionalize inducements, so that again, it costs Mark Fletcher. It's tough, like with Tywan Malone, who wants a playing time guarantee, and he also wants money. So, when you've got Tyleek and Mike Hall, and you've got Ty Hamilton and these guys, like, it's tough. It's hard to guarantee a guy. Like, how much are you going to guarantee him? Going, Hero Canu's been here, and you got some of these young guys that are trying to get on the field. Like, it's hard to guarantee a guy who had 10 sacks in 2 years, or 10 tackles in 2 years. It's tough to guarantee that guy really anything. But I don't know. I think that that's a great question. Honestly, I think that if I'm Larry and I'm fighting that, I'm just like, look at I've produced more first round picks than any position coach in the history of college football, and I've also had a bunch of guys in the last year and a half sign massive extensions. Joey, Nick, Chase isn't going to get his 5th year signed, so he's going to be healthy and have a big year this year. But you get Hamilton, you get Draymond. I mean, those guys are all within the last 3-4 years that they got drafted. So I think he still got it. And again, I think that some of the wackadoo stuff we did on defense didn't help us. Like, I think that Jack going back to defensive end. I honestly think that getting rid of some of the upperclassmen that weren't productive, that didn't get drafted, and some didn't even get like an undrafted free agency deal, it's going to really let us play the best players. Like, there's no more impediment to Mike Hall being great or Tyleek being great. Those guys need to play, and I think Ty Hamilton might be as good as any of them. I mean, I think if you put a gun to my head, that Ty and Mike Hall are probably the day one starters. And Tyleek will rotate right in there, but. I think it's going to be exciting to see what because we've been talking about this group of 4 guys for 3 years now. It was the super sophomores last year, and now they're draft eligible. They're juniors, and those guys all want to go pro, and they all want to get out of here after 3 years if possible. So now it's time to get rocking and get it going a little bit. Let's see, we got any other questions? See, yeah, I don't really worry about, like, with LJ. I think that the draft was pretty strong this year. I think that we need yeah, and again, that's a great point by our boy Gifted. The DB play is a big part of not getting sacks. Yeah, I agree. I think that you have to be able to stick in coverage for a tick longer for these guys to be able to get to the quarterback. And honestly, teams get rid of the ball quick against us, man, because they know that most of these tackles can't match up versus JT. They can't match up versus Mike Hall, so they're playing a lot of quick game. I mean, they're getting rid of that rock fast, and that's frustrating on the defensive line. So we'll take a couple more questions. Nevada, any other things going on right now? Game 7s were crazy yesterday. 2 of the best hockey games I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you guys are hockey fans, but we are. The Simmons thing, Jordan Lyle, Caleb Brown. See if there's anything that's popped since we've been on here. Teron Vincent literally didn't even get a contract in the NFL, which is crazy, but it just shows what the NFL thinks of some guys. Like, if you don't get an undrafted free agent contract, they literally are just saying that you're not worth $1,000 signing bonus, which is, Jerron Cage got one. So, if you put a gun to my head and asked me if Teron would get a deal or Jerron Cage, I would have said a billion times Teron, because Jerron Cage is overage. He's a 6-year guy, which is held against you in the NFL during this process. But he got a deal with the Saints, and Teron he's going to go on the rookie free agent mini camp tour to try to get a deal. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the safety actually gets here at some point. Nevada, your boy Aaron Rodgers looked good spinning it, throwing it to Garrett Wilson. What kind of year do you think he's going to have throwing it to Garrett?
I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's going to have a monster year. I think the Jets are going to be formidable. And yeah, but like those things, like that trade worked out for best for all involved. Just like these transfers with these kids, this stuff generally works out the best for all involved because if a kid's not going to play, I wish him well. I wish him well to move on and try to do it. It helps Ohio State. It helps the kid. It helps them get on the field because all these kids want to play. They all want to play. They all want to play somewhere. And I think with Ohio State having their purge on kids with named Caleb, I think every Caleb's off the team right now, right? I
Yeah,
think do we have any Caleb's? Do we have?
two different. I think we got both Caleb's gone. We had the one with the C and the one with the K. So we had one from
Yeah.
Texas and one from Illinois. So the Caleb purge is over with. But no, I agree with you. I think that the transfer thing. I think the best part about the portal is like if a kid is, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I think some kids really make emotional decisions that aren't good for them. But there's some kids that really think it out and they're miserable. They're miserable where they're at. They're either homesick or they're seventh string or the career's not going how they want. And if you're an Ohio State guy and you're sixth or seventh string at receiver and you've got four first round picks in front of you, then you could probably go to Missouri or you can go somewhere and start right away. You go to Florida, you can go to Miami, and you'll be the number one guy or the number two guy. So, I get it. Like, if I went to Ohio State and Orlando Pace and Corey Stringer playing tackle there, like I'm probably thinking, hey man, it might be time to go look somewhere else. If we're the same age or they're younger than me, like I can't beat those guys out. There's no way. So I think that these guys all want to play. They all want to get to the league. And the thing about it is like the only way you get to the league is if you play. You can't just be a guy that stands around and waves the towel on the sideline the whole game and then they draft you for that. So, but I think like I said, it'll be interesting to see what else we lose if we lose anyone else, any linemen, any safeties. Again, you hear rumors all the time. I don't like talking about them just because, it's not fair to the kid. But, I mean, we got Lorenzo Sells Jr. in here now. We got another tackle in here now. So we're under the cap deal, which is, it's always funny when people have consternation about, are we going to be over the scholarship limit? And that just never even enters my mind because we always manage to get there by kids transferring, kids medicaling, like you have to declare that until like mid-August. So, I mean, there's always attrition that gets you to the 85-man scholarship limit. So, again, I think it's going to be interesting. Well, I think we'll appreciate you, Paul. Paul just showed up. Uh Julian Fleming, Nevada, we got a question. What do you think about Julian Fleming? What kind of role is he going to have this year? Um, God, it's hard when you've got Ennis and Tate and some of these supernova kids come in. But what do you think of Julian for his what's his fourth year?
Yeah, just he's got to get healthy. He's just he's been playing stiff because he's been playing hurt just about his entire time at Ohio State. So I don't think we really have an idea how good he can be. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, we know how good Ennis and Tate are, and they're going to demand touches. So when you go Marvin, Emeka, you know, and then you've got guys like Xavier, who I just absolutely love and just think he's got to be on the field. It doesn't leave a lot of room, but you need lots of wide receivers. Guys can help you in lots of different ways. I think Julian will help us and make some big catches. But yeah, the young guys are definitely pushing, and it's going to be it's a crowded wide receiver room, and it's going to be very difficult for get touches. Good thing for him, he's got Brian Hartline calling plays, so he knows the wide receivers are going to get the first look always.
Yeah, and I think Julian, obviously it's a big year for him. I mean, he's a guy that most people, Jackson Smith and Jigba, when we took him, he was like the 55th or 56th rated overall receiver in the country, and he turned out to be the number one guy in the draft 3 years later. So Julian Fleming was number one. I mean, he was the 5-star. He was the guy that everybody thought was going to be like Jackson Smith and Jigba and be a 3-and-out cinch, top 15, 20-ish pick. And that's why sometimes, you got to trust your eyeballs, trust your evaluations. And Brian Hartline did that. And Julian Fleming's been, he's been bogged down by a bad shoulder, bunch of knee, or excuse me, not knees, bunch of injuries. He's had the dropsies a lot, which has hurt him getting on the field. And, Jackson Smith and Jigba, kind of took his spot and became the superstar and the guy that, went in the first round, went 20th overall. So it's gonna be a big year for him because I mean, you put a gun to my head, who are the three most talented guys as of right now before Ennis gets here? It's the top two guys and Tate. Like I mean, it's hard to not play Tate at that Z position when you've got Marvin and Emeka working at the X and then the slot. So, but again, it'll be interesting to see what Brian does. Again, you play a freshman, man, you're going to ruffle some feathers, but I don't think that those guys are more talented than Carnell Tate is. So, but we'll see how it goes. It'll be really interesting. Yeah, well, we got some Game 7 hockey going on, so I think we're going to wrap this one. Nevada, you got any final thoughts? Transfer portal stuff, a lot of craziness going on. We're going to get on that board, but any final thoughts to wrap this thing up?
No, just excited to see the OSU defense this year. Excited to with all the changes, and excited to see kids like Sonny Styles and CJ Hicks, and you already saw little flashes of what they could do in the spring game. I can't wait to see what they could do in the fall. But they're going to be in the mix as well. So this it's going to be a talented defensive unit. I can't wait to see it dominate in 2023.
Yeah, Sonny Styles has to play. I think that the talent upgrade will be significant across the defense. You're deleting guys that didn't get drafted. You're putting in guys that I think potentially could be very high picks. So, again, there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of meat on the bone. I love. I'm gonna take this last question. I've been very high on Jack Sawyer. I think that Jack Sawyer is a guy that he's a defensive end. I think that playing that Jack position when he's wearing 265 is tough because they're asking you to be a linebacker. 265 as a modern linebacker is probably too heavy. Most of our linebackers are 230-ish, 235-ish. The days of Schlegel with the neck roll and the knee brace and all that, those days are over in modern spread football. So, Jack being 265, trying to play that position was tough. When it was really good at Oklahoma State, Jim Knowles had a guy that was about 230 playing it, kind of a tweener D-end linebacker guy, and he was really good at it. But Jack, I don't think that it was meant for him. I think that a guy who's that big, like that 6'5" body frame, that heavy, not heavy, but he weighs 265, so he's not going to be as quick as a 230 guy. It's better to be, for leverage sakes, it's better to have your hand on the ground, come off the rock, than to be reading and reacting and trying to stay low. And I think his talent is pass rushing. I think that he just has to. He had 4.5 sacks, and he probably played the fourth most snaps of the defensive ends. And he was one of the guys that he'd get 10 snaps a game, 15 snaps a game, and he still found ways to produce. So I think that you give him a full cadre of snaps, I think he'll be really good. So. You have any thoughts on that, Nevada? I mean, me and you are both pretty high on Jack Sawyer because I think that the stock is low. And it's like one of those stocks I'd like to buy because I think everybody, they expected Bosa. He hasn't been Bosa through 2 years, but it only takes one big year to pop. Like Chase Young wasn't anything crazy special through his first 2 years, but his third year, he was the greatest defensive end maybe ever, at Ohio State. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
I think Jack needs to get more bendy. He just looks stiff to me, and whether that's muscle bound or stiff or too big or whatever we want to call it, but I just think he's got to get a little bit more bendy, a little bit more flexible, and I think that'll help his quickness, help his everything in terms of it being able to get around that edge on the defensive end spot. But we'll see. I mean, talk is cheap. We're expecting big things out of him this year. There's no reason to believe there's a reason he was as highly regarded as he was coming out of high school. And I think buying Jack Sawyer stock cheap is definitely a good investment.
I totally agree. I think that the bend is something that him and JT both have to get better at to finish around the corner and get to that quarterback, man. That's like you watch these really, really good pass rushers, man. They are super flexible. They can bend, you just bend that corner a little bit quicker because it's really like a game of like milliseconds when it comes to getting a sack because there's a big difference between getting a pressure and getting to the quarterback, get him on the ground. So I totally agree with that flexibility thing. So, well, we are going to wrap this one because there's Game 7 going on right now. So we appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think Jack's gonna have a big year, but again, we appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys. These live shows are so fun to do. Thank you for the great questions as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like. Shout out where you are from in the comments because, again, that is always fun to read where you guys are watching from. So we appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe and also click the little alert bell so you guys can watch us live every single night and you can get those great questions in because those things are fantastic and they really, really make this thing fun. So thank you guys as always. I'm about to get on BuckeyeScoop.com for the rest of the night. We got a game thread going for some of these hockey games going on, these game sevens, and Rangers Devils going to be a war tonight. So I'm excited to watch this. So thank you as always. Thank you, Scoop family. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.